5:18 a.m., downtown Phoenix, Arizona. The streetlights are still on, glowing pale amber against the last shadows of night. The city hasn't started talking yet, but it's breathing. Quietly, warm air drifts between low-rise buildings, already carrying the promise of heat that will define the day. A lone pickup truck rolls through an empty intersection. Its tires hum against the asphalt, the sound stretching farther than it should in the stillness. Somewhere nearby, a delivery door slams shut. Metal echoes once, then disappears. The sky begins to change. Not dramatically, just enough. A thin band of orange slips under the dark blue, touching the edges of the horizon like a secret. The sun isn't here yet, but Phoenix knows it's coming. This is a city that wakes early. Not because it wants to, but because it has to. Palm trees stand motionless along the sidewalks, tall and deliberate, their silhouettes sharp against the lightening sky. They don't sway. There's no breeze to perform for the camera. Phoenix doesn't decorate itself. It just exists. A man walks his dog past a closed coffee shop. No conversation, no rush, just the sound of footsteps and a collar gently clicking with each step. The dog pauses, sniffing the warm concrete like it's already noon. By 6 a.m., the temperature has already crossed the line where other cities would still be asleep. And yet, there's calm here. Phoenix doesn't reveal itself all at once. It never has. It waits for you to slow down. To notice the space between sounds. The way the light hits stucco walls. The way the desert doesn't try to impress, it dares you to understand it. As the sun finally crests the horizon, the city shifts. Glass buildings catch fire for a moment, reflecting gold and copper. Parking lots glow. Mountains in the distance, South Mountain, Camelback, emerge from shadow like ancient shapes remembering their names. This isn't a postcard city. It's a feeling city. The streets widen as you move outward from downtown. Everything here feels stretched, roads, sky, time. Phoenix was built to breathe. Built for movement, built for escape. A cyclist glides past on an empty bike lane. A jogger runs without headphones, letting the city speak instead. Somewhere, a cafe door opens for the first time today. The smell of coffee spills into the air, briefly overpowering dust and heat. Phoenix mornings are honest. They don't hide what's coming. By mid-morning, the sun will press down hard. Sidewalks will shimmer. Cars will become shelters. Shade will turn into currency. But right now, this narrow window between night and day, Phoenix feels almost gentle. Almost. There's a reason people misunderstand this city. They see the heat. They hear the stereotypes. They drive through too fast. What they miss is this moment. The way silence sits comfortably here. The way the desert frames the city instead of fighting it. The way Phoenix doesn't apologize for what it is. This place doesn't try to charm you. It challenges you to stay. And as the sun climbs higher, burning away the last traces of cool air, the city fully wakes. Traffic begins to flow. Storefronts light up. People step outside with purpose now, knowing exactly how long they can linger before the heat claims the day. Phoenix has shown you its quiet side first. But that was just the introduction. What happens when you step deeper? Past the wide roads, past the surface impressions, into the layers most travelers never slow down enough to see? 9:12 a.m., the edge of the city, where Phoenix begins to loosen its grip. The sun is fully awake now. Not aggressive, yet, but present. It sits high above the valley, bleaching shadows thinner with every passing minute. This is the hour when movement feels intentional, when people choose where to go before the heat decides for them. The road stretches outward, wide and unhurried. Traffic thins. The skyline fades behind you, replaced by space, real space. The kind that makes you sit back and let your shoulders drop. On the horizon, Camelback Mountain rises abruptly, its shape unmistakable. Not graceful, not symmetrical, just there, solid, watching. Cars pull into the lot at the base, doors opening and closing quickly, hikers preparing with quiet efficiency. No chatter, no spectacle. Everyone here understands the rules. Water first. Timing matters. Respect the sun. A trail begins, cutting into the mountain like a question. Footsteps crunch against dry gravel. The air smells faintly of dust and warm stone. With every step upward, the city rearranges itself behind you. Roads turning into lines, buildings flattening into shapes. This is Phoenix from above. Unfiltered, unedited, the higher you climb, the more you notice how carefully the city fits into the desert instead of replacing it. Neighborhoods stop suddenly, giving way to untouched land. Golf courses appear like green interruptions, almost surreal against the brown and red tones surrounding them. The wind finally shows up here. Light, brief, enough to remind you that the desert breathes too. At the top, there's no dramatic moment, no applause, just stillness. The valley spreads endlessly in all directions, mountains framing the city like boundaries drawn by time instead of design. You realize how small everything feels from up here, and how intentional it all must be to survive. Back below, Phoenix continues moving. Midtown cafes begin to fill. Doors swing open and closed in a steady rhythm. Inside, the temperature drops instantly. Conversations soften, ice clinks in glasses, laptops open. This is another side of Phoenix, one that exists between heat and escape. Baristas move with calm precision. Regulars nod instead of speaking. A woman sketches the mountains through the window, pausing every few seconds to look up, then back down again. Phoenix inspires this kind of quiet observation. The streets tell their own story. Murals stretch across brick walls, bold colors, desert themes, faces that feel rooted here. Not polished, not curated, just honest expressions of place. Some are sun-faded already, edges softened by time and weather. Phoenix doesn't preserve everything. It lets things age. Driving farther east, the city thins again. Strip malls dissolve into open roads. Saguaros begin to appear, slow, patient giants standing exactly where they've always been. They don't line up. They don't perform. They simply exist, arms raised like they're holding up the sky. This is the Phoenix most visitors don't plan for. The one between destinations, the moments in motion, the quiet drives with the radio off. A red light stops you in the middle of nowhere. No buildings nearby, just road, sky, and heat. The stillness feels intentional, like the city is asking you to pause before moving on. By late morning, the sun sharpens. Shadows retreat beneath cars and trees. Outdoor movement slows, becomes strategic. Phoenix adapts without complaint. Shade structures stretch over sidewalks. Misters hum softly outside restaurants. Architecture here isn't decorative, it's defensive. Yet there's beauty in that practicality. The way buildings angle to block the sun. The way courtyards hide from the heat. The way life continues, just adjusted. Phoenix doesn't fight its environment. It negotiates with it. And as you move through these spaces, mountains, streets, cafes, open roads, you begin to understand something important. This city isn't meant to be rushed, or conquered, or consumed in highlights. It reveals itself gradually, in layers shaped by heat, distance, and time. What looks empty at first glance turns out to be intentional. What feels harsh slowly becomes grounding. But this is still only the surface. Because beyond the roads and trails, past the viewpoints and planned stops, there's a quieter Phoenix. One that lives in neighborhoods, routines, and moments most travelers never wait long enough to see. And that's where the city truly starts to speak. 3:27 p.m. A residential street in central Phoenix. The heat is at its peak now. The sun presses straight down, flattening shadows until they cling tightly beneath parked cars and desert trees. The air feels heavier, not moving, not apologizing. This is the hour when Phoenix turns inward. Front yards sit quiet behind low walls. Gravel replaces grass. Desert plants, agave, palo verde, barrel cactus, stand arranged with intention, not decoration. Every choice here feels practical, thought through, learned over time. A screen door opens slowly. A man steps out holding a package, squinting into the brightness. He doesn't rush. He knows the heat won't chase him, it's already here. The door closes again, sealing the cool indoors like a promise. This is local Phoenix. No landmarks, no crowds, no captions, just routine. Ice cream trucks don't play music here, not at this hour. Kids stay inside. Sidewalks remain empty, waiting for the sun to loosen its grip. Even birds keep low, hopping from shade to shade with quiet urgency. A few blocks away, a small neighborhood market hums softly. The door opens, cool air rushes out. Inside, shelves are stocked with familiar comforts, cold drinks, fresh tortillas, citrus fruit piled high. A radio plays in the background, low enough to blend into the space instead of filling it. Conversations happen slowly here, not because people lack energy, but because everything moves at the pace the desert allows. Outside, the street stretches forward, long and straight, framed by single-story homes designed to endure. Rooflines sit low, colors stay neutral, nothing competes with the sky. This part of Phoenix isn't trying to be discovered, it's trying to be lived in. As the afternoon drifts on, the city waits. You feel it in the stillness, in the way time seems suspended between air-conditioned rooms. Phoenix afternoons aren't meant for exploring, they're meant for patience. Then, gradually, the light begins to change. By 5 p.m., shadows lengthen again. Walls regain depth. The heat eases just enough to make outdoor movement possible. Doors open. Cars start up. Life leaks back onto the streets. In a quiet park, sprinklers click on, spraying arcs of water that catch the sunlight like glass. Children appear, running toward the sound without hesitation. Laughter breaks the silence, sharp and brief, then echoes away. Nearby, a couple walks their dog, keeping to the shaded side of the path. They don't talk much. They don't need to. Phoenix evenings don't demand conversation, they offer relief. Local restaurants begin to glow from the inside. Small places, family-owned, no signs shouting for attention. Just windows lit warmly against the cooling sky. The smell of grilled meat and spices drifts outward, mixing with the dust and dry air. This is where Phoenix becomes human. Not dramatic, not cinematic in the obvious way, but real. You realize something standing here, watching the neighborhood wake back up. Phoenix isn't defined by its attractions. It's defined by adaptation, by people who understand the rhythms of this place and move in sync with them. By homes built for endurance. By routines shaped around light and shade. Travelers often say Phoenix feels empty. But standing here, in the quiet hum of local life, you understand the truth. It isn't empty, it's reserved, and just as the city begins to soften, just as the heat loosens and the streets fill again, the light shifts one more time. The sky deepens, colors warm, the desert prepares for its most honest moment of the day. Because in Phoenix, everything changes after sunset, and that's when the city reveals a different kind of beauty. 7:41 p.m. South Mountain Park, overlooking the valley. The sun is low now, heavy and red, dragging itself toward the edge of the earth. The heat hasn't disappeared, but it's no longer in control. For the first time all day, Phoenix exhales. Cars line the overlook quietly. Doors close with soft thuds. People step out and stand still, facing west, as if they've agreed not to speak during this part. No one checks the time. No one rushes. The sky begins its performance, but not loudly. Gold fades into copper. Copper softens into pink. Pink deepens into purple. The city below absorbs it all, reflecting color off glass and concrete, turning ordinary buildings into something almost unreal. Traffic flows like a slow river of light. From this height, the city feels calm, manageable, human again. A woman leans against the railing, arms folded, watching the horizon without moving. A couple sits on the hood of their car, sharing silence instead of conversation. A child asks a question, quietly, and gets no answer. None is needed. This is Phoenix at its most honest. The desert cools quickly now. You can feel it on your skin, subtle but unmistakable. The air becomes lighter, easier to breathe. Somewhere below, patios fill. Chairs scrape softly against concrete. Glasses clink. Laughter drifts upward and disappears into the open sky. As the sun finally slips away, the city doesn't darken, it transforms. Lights turn on in stages. One neighborhood at a time. Streets illuminate. Signs glow. Phoenix at night isn't flashy. It's steady, reliable. It knows exactly what it's doing. Back down in the city, evening life unfolds without urgency. Food trucks gather on wide corners, engines humming softly. Lines form, not long, not rushed. Just patient. The smell of grilled corn, roasted meat, and fresh bread fills the air. Music floats from open doors. Not loud, just present. People sit outside now, reclaiming the space the sun took earlier. Conversations stretch. Time loosens its grip. The desert has released the city from its daytime discipline. Walking through a night market, you notice how different Phoenix feels in the dark. The heat no longer defines it. The distance between places feels intentional instead of inconvenient. The wide streets make sense now. They allow the city to breathe even at night. Overhead, the sky opens fully. No towering buildings to block it. Stars appear slowly, one by one, reminding you how close the desert still is, no matter how urban the valley becomes. This is the turning point. The moment when Phoenix stops being something you endure, and becomes something you understand. You realize why people stay here. Why they choose this place over easier climates. Why they accept the summer without complaint. Phoenix teaches patience, awareness, respect for rhythm. It gives back quietly, on its own terms. As the night deepens, the city settles into a steady pulse. Not wild, not silent, just alive enough to remind you it's there. And standing here, between desert and city, light and dark, heat and relief, you feel it clearly now. Phoenix isn't a destination you conquer. It's a place you learn to move with. But there's still one more layer left to uncover. Because when the noise fades and the night stretches long, Phoenix offers something most travelers never notice. A kind of clarity. 11:56 p.m. A side street near Roosevelt Row. The city has lowered its voice. Not gone silent, just softer. More selective. Streetlights cast long, deliberate shadows across the pavement. Neon signs hum gently, no longer competing for attention. Phoenix at this hour feels stripped down, honest in a way daylight never allows. A man locks up a small gallery, tugging once on the door to be sure. Across the street, a cafe keeps its lights on but its chairs empty, waiting for tomorrow. The smell of warm concrete lingers in the air, slowly releasing the heat it held all day. This is when Phoenix belongs to the patient. Cars pass occasionally, headlights gliding through intersections without urgency. No honking, no rush, just movement, purposeful and unforced. You walk a little slower now. Not because you're tired, but because there's nothing pushing you forward. The desert night has a way of stretching time, thinning it out until moments feel longer than they should. Above you, the sky is wide and clean. Stars don't explode into view, they reveal themselves gradually, like they're testing whether you're paying attention. The city never fully blocks them here. Phoenix always leaves room. In a quiet neighborhood, windows glow softly. Inside, lives unfold in small, ordinary ways. Late dinners, television murmurs, laughter behind closed doors. This is the side of the city that doesn't show up in guides or thumbnails. It doesn't need to. A train horn sounds in the distance. Long, low. It cuts through the stillness, then fades, leaving the night intact. Somewhere nearby, a palm frond rustles, finally moved by a breeze that waited all day to arrive. You realize how much space there is here. Between buildings, between sounds, between thoughts. Phoenix doesn't crowd you. It gives you room to hear yourself, to notice what you've been carrying, to sit with it without distraction. This is why some people come here and never leave. Not for the attractions, not for the weather, but for the clarity. The desert has a way of removing excess, stripping things down to what matters. In Phoenix, that lesson lives inside the city itself, quietly reinforced every night. As midnight passes, even the remaining noise settles. The streets feel suspended, as if the city has paused to reset before morning. Before heat, before movement, before routine returns, you stop walking, just for a moment, and standing there, under a sky that feels impossibly close, you understand something that can't be explained in facts or footage. Phoenix isn't loud about who it is. It waits, for those willing to slow down enough to listen. And as the night stretches on, you sense the journey nearing its end, not with a conclusion, but with a feeling. One that lingers longer than the heat ever does. What does a place like this leave behind in you when you finally move on? 6:03 a.m. The desert edge, just beyond the city. Morning returns quietly, not with an announcement, but with light. Pale and clean, slipping across the land like it's done this 1,000 times before. The air is cool again, briefly forgiving. Phoenix is between cycles. From here, the city looks distant, low, unassuming, a spread of rooftops and roads resting inside a vast bowl of desert and mountains. It doesn't dominate the landscape, it submits to it. A woman stands near her car, sipping coffee from a paper cup, watching the sky brighten. She doesn't check her phone. She doesn't speak. She knows this moment won't last long. None of them ever do here. The sun begins to rise, slow and deliberate, illuminating the valley in layers. First the peaks, then the neighborhoods, then the roads, already preparing for movement. Phoenix wakes again, but now, you see it differently. You understand the logic behind the wide streets, the low buildings, the early mornings and late nights. The way life bends instead of breaks under the sun. The way people here measure time not by clocks, but by light. This city doesn't chase attention. It doesn't compete, it survives. And in surviving, it teaches something rare. Patience, adaptation, presence. Phoenix asks you to meet it halfway. To respect its rhythms. To move when it allows and rest when it demands. In return, it offers space, mental, emotional, physical, that few cities can match. As the heat begins its slow return, the window closes again. Another day prepares to unfold. Another cycle begins, and you realize the truth. Phoenix isn't a place you visit once. It's a place that changes the way you move through places. You may leave, most do, but part of you will remember this feeling. This quiet clarity, this balance between endurance and calm. The desert has a way of doing that. It stays with you.